giving support for what happened and taking sides on what happened. Because if you say somebody had issued a statement congratulating any person, it means that you are actually taking sides on what actually happened. So that is fake news. And whoever had issued that statement should withdraw it with an apology. It is fake news. The Secretary General of PDOIS has not issued any statement before or after the two by-elections. Notwithstanding, because we have been dragged into it, it is important for the community to understand our position. And by extension, the political architecture of the Gambia. We see elections as a base of determining representation. Presidential election, National Assembly election, council elections. A party participates to be able to take over the presidency or control of the National Assembly or the councils to be able to serve the people based on its program. We participated as a coalition in the presidential elections. We participated as a party in the National Assembly elections. We participated as a party in the council elections. We did not participate in the National Assembly election for Nyamina West in 2017. But we participated in the Kerjarga Ward election in 2018. And the DOI candidate had third position. Now we have the possibility of analyzing why we did not participate in the recent by-election. To us, a by-election comes when a seat becomes vacant, but it is a seat that had already been occupied by a particular candidate of a party who won in a particular contest. So by obligation, if that seat becomes vacant, the party whose candidate occupied the seat must participate, unless the party wants to cede the ground that it controlled. So there is absolutely no doubt that we expected GDC to participate in both the Nyamina West elections as well as the Kerjarga Ward election. For the other parties, in a by-election, you have the choice of testing your political weight. Either you contest to take the seat, showing your political weight that now you have in fact exceeded the bounds which confined you to a loss in a seat, loss of a seat, or that you are just entering the political climate and you want to test your strength. For us, contesting a seat that was controlled by another party, when we have 2021 just coming, and that we are working in those constituencies or wards to build up the political weight of the party, we can only participate when we believe that we have made sufficient ground. As far as DOI is concerned, this is a period of building its support base. It's not a period of testing its weight. So DOI did not participate in this by-election because it wants to test its weight after it has reached its zenith in its engagement and mobilization of the people. So we saw no wisdom in participating in these by-elections when we are building our ground all over the country to build the political weight of the party. Now, it is important then to move to the next phase. What is the current political architecture? And how did it come into being? And why we are, in fact, absolved. Because what is happening now should not, in fact, be happening. If our original agenda of coming together as political parties to form a coalition to effect a change, if that original agenda was actually adhered to, we will not be where we are today. Where are we? And what was the original agenda? We came together because before that time, for 52 years, Gambia had never changed through the ballot box. So we agreed that we were going to come together in order to make that possible for Gambia, for the first time in its history, to effect change through the ballot. But that change was to build genuine democracy. And genuine democracy requires a level ground for multi-party contest. So consequently, we built an architecture for level ground for contests in elections. We agreed that the person who will stand as a presidential candidate for the coalition will resign from his party, so that we will no longer be considering political parties during a transitional phase. We also agreed that that person will only be there for 3 years. And after the 3 years, we will go back to an election where the person will not participate. Do you know why? Because the problems of elections everywhere on the African continent and elsewhere is the power of incumbency. And we wanted to cut the umbilical cord of that power linked to the people. And therefore, we saw that if we have a voluntary term set by that candidate of the coalition, and at the same time remove the whole coalition agenda from any partisan consideration, then we will be able to work together to craft a constitution, craft the institutions of the state, change the mindset of the Gambian people, and you, the media fraternity, will have assisted this coalition to be able to show the Gambian people that it was not through the barrel of the gun that they changed a regime that was entrenched with might and money, but they were capable of removing that government through their votes, through their power. So it means that during the 3-year term, the media fraternity would have, and sorority, to be more gender sensitive, we would have really worked together to work on the mindset of the Gambian people, for each Gambian to become a sovereign Gambian who will not in any way be subject to any intimidation or inducement, but will treasure his or her sovereignty and will not allow anybody to trample on it. That was the objective. That meant that after the presidential elections, all those who would want to be coalition National Assembly members will do the same thing as the president. All will become independent National Assembly members, then we will work there, knowing the coalition program of constitutional reform, institutional reform, then we will all work together to build that new country that all Gambians will take as their property. All Gambians will be proud to own. That was the agenda. And if that had happened, we'll not be talking about incumbency and its power. But that agenda was derailed. From the very beginning, they claimed that the president should move to what is a constitutional mandate. Yes, it's a constitutional mandate. That when a person is elected, you are elected for a 5-year term. So that is an acquired right. You cannot abrogate that right. Any attempt to do so means that you are overthrowing a government. But if you decide to reduce your term voluntarily through resignation, that is also very constitutional lawful and very noble. And that is what was anticipated, and Gambia would have been the darling of the world, an example in the world. But others felt that the president should continue 5 years, and that continued until crisis in the cabinet. And eventually, that same president decided to establish a party. And that is the reality, that is the architecture of the current Gambian situation, where you have an incumbent with a political party contesting elections. So all the myths should now disappear for any political party to think that you have the authority that you had yesterday. Each must realize that this is a new situation requiring a new crafting of strategies and tactics regarding how it is to be handled. For Doi, we are convinced that democracy survives not by the decision of leaders, it survives by the decision of people. That our duty is to help the people to realize their power, control it, and know how to entrust that power based on their concept, in their enlightened interests. That what all of us ought to do is to move away from the politics of patronage, from the politics of insult, from the politics of personality. We must realize that politics is about the lives of the Gambian people. What policies, what programs, what projects are we going to craft and implement to be able to eradicate poverty and enhance liberty? That is what politics is all about. So starting from today, what we wish to convey to you is that we are determined as ever before to engage the Gambian population, to move them away from the politics that divides them and move them towards convergence, where they should engage in dialogue and debate on the policies of the political parties and try to convince each other who to support in order to address their needs and aspirations. If we do that, we will have a country united, even if there is diversity, but a diversity that can lead to convergence through debate and dialogue towards enhancing our mindset, changing it if need be, consolidating if need be, depending on the mindset that we have. What happened in the 2 by-elections is precisely what happened in 2016. And that shows that we are at least building up an electoral structure that can serve us. In 2016, there was counting on the spot. And we all knew the results before they were declared. Even though there was an error in the declaration, but even then President Jammeh knew the results, and we knew the results. And he knew that he lost. And that's why he conceded. And that is why even during the impasse, we were so convinced of our victory that we could continue to cling on to that victory to transform it into legitimacy to govern. And eventually, it is that legitimate authority derived from the people that led to the transfer, peaceful transfer of power. You can also see that during the vice election, you don't hear too many disputes. No election petitions, because the counting on the spot did indicate who really won. But how the campaign was conducted, what was done, well, it shows you that, well, you're still going back to the politics of inducement. And you can hear the campaign, the messages. Well, is that the type of politics we want for 2021? That is left for you to decide. But looking at the results, we could see that out of the 5,000 plus registered voters, 2,000 plus in Kerjarga participated, and therefore what we counted as people who did not participate, either they are no longer alive, or they have traveled, or they simply did not participate. The number was more than what the person had who was considered to be the winner. And a similar situation exists in the Nyamina West. So what is very evident is that in all these constituencies or wards, a lot of work has to be done by the political parties to truly seek the mandate of the people, that not everything is lost, not everything is won. We are still in a transition in determining what will happen in 2021. Let's move with grace, good faith, and real politics of decency. Ultimately, we will achieve an aim that will set Gambia as an example in the world, as we brought the change in 2016 with grace, and we became an example in the world, even if afterwards we have not achieved the aim for which we set the coalition. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I am Secretary General from Gambian Talents TV. Honorable, a lot of Gambians appreciate your political attitude and mind in the Gambian politics, but argue that your party, PDOIS, is too old political minded. And the population of the Gambian populace rather, consists more of young people than old people. So what is DOI doing differently to gain the heart of the young people? And a follow-up to that, you made mention in your statement that DOI is more determined more than ever before. So do PDOIS have the hope of occupying the State House in 2021? Thank you.
Well, I think this question should be answered by the journalists themselves, by finding out how many candidates. We had 22 candidates in the National Assembly elections in 2017. How many of them were above 50? So clearly, young people are standing for doing.
But the question is the party is too old-minded.
Yes, well, okay, now I'm beginning to understand what you understand by old. But the question is, what is old-minded? It is DOI that brought about the sovereignty of the people. It is DOI that is helping the Gambian nation to understand what a constitution is, what a republic is. Is that all-minded? People are yet to even become part of nations. They still belong to ethnic groups, religious groups. It is DOI that is saying that we should be equal in sovereignty, irrespective of our religion, our ethno-linguistic group, our gender, that we are all equal in sovereignty. And it is that authority that we have that should determine our manner of government. Is that all-minded? Which party has educated the nation to develop those concepts? It is DOI that is actually emphasizing that we have our farmers, we have young people coming out of GTTI, we have many of these women selling at the markets, but who is giving them support? DOI is saying, instead of taking that farm in Kafuta for a foreign farm to come and take the land and employ our women, and they work from sun up to sundown, and then they pay them pittance. DOI is saying no to that. Is that all-minded? We are saying we should have a cooperative bank that will give those women the seed, fertilizer, and farming implement to work on that farm, sell it, and that comes back to them as their property, as their wealth to eradicate their poverty. Is that all-minded? We are saying that students coming from GTTI can be brought together so that when those people who are given fertilizers and farming implements by cooperative banks, when they are to dispose of their coups, those people will be able to have milling machines to be able to process the coups. Is that all-minded? That those people who will be able to buy that, whether it's the rice that is processed, whether it's coups that is processed, those who will be buying it, selling it at the market, will also get loans from the cooperative bank to be able to buy it so that they'll be able to sell. And you build a whole chain of producers, those who are processing and those who are marketing endlessly, until you can produce 4 billion, 4,000 million. We are importing in terms of rice 4,000 million that we can produce for ourselves, and 4 billion will be here in the Gambian economy. Is that all-minded? So what is important as young people is to begin to identify those people who have misled the African continent for 5 decades. People will have big education who never did any research, have no intention in knowing what our countries need, who continue to mislead people with statements that they cannot defend. And young people will be very foolhardy if they allow such people to continue to mislead them when all the knowledge is in your hands. We've always said, anybody who challenges DOI's way of thinking, bring him so that we have the debate before you, and that is the challenge to you media representatives, that anybody who says that in your media house, say that we will arrange a debate between you and the DOI people so that you can clarify matters to us. So essentially, we can go on, but we don't want the whole press conference to be just based on that issue.
So do you have hope on occupying State House 2021?
It is not about hope. It is about the work that we have done to build coalitions. In 2006, we are the ones who worked to build the NAT coalition. And during those by-elections during that era, 6 by-elections, NAT won 4 by-elections. And possibly we could have taken over the country if others did not depart from NAT. 2011, we tried to build the United Front. Others did not join in. But look at the results in 2011. We had the coalition of UDP joined by PPP and GMC, and they had 17% of the votes. We built the United Front. We wanted all to come in. We did not even participate in the presidency. We said whoever they selected, we will support. And NRP came, DPDP came, and that was another coalition, and they had 11% of the votes. So you can see that we were helping to build the strength of the opposition. And 2016, we worked to build the coalition, and what happened? we changed over the country. So therefore, everything that DOI has been in, people can see progress. So we know that 2021, there will be progress. There is no doubt about it. What the outcome is going to be determined by the Gambian people. But we will do our maximum to ensure that the progress we have achieved up to 2016 will continue.
You compare the Nyamina and that of Kerja elections to coalition 2016, but then you said there was a kind of inducement by Project Right. Could you elaborate more on that inducement? Will it be motivational difference or what?
I think you should take my statement very clearly. I'm simply saying that incumbency 2016 coalition agenda was to put an end to incumbency in politics, meaning that the president served for 3 years and is gone. No parties will build up any base during the 3 years. We will build the mindset of a nation. We'll build a nation. One Gambia, one nation, one people. So that there will be level ground for multi-party contest. All the parties will work together in the National Assembly as well as the executive to be able to deliver what the Gambian people expected. So the person who is the incumbent will not participate in the next following election, but will ensure that there is a level ground for multi-party contest. That would have put an end to incumbency. That's what we are emphasizing. We are saying that that has not happened. So therefore, the power of incumbency is still there. How it manifests itself, I think all of you should go and investigate and find out what actually happened in all these constituencies. For us, we observed it at a distance with all the fanfare and all the languages that they were using. I think all the Gambian people know exactly what was going on.
And my second question is, you talked about Gambia being in a crisis. Could you also elaborate on that?
I don't understand what you say.
And you said those who talked about 5 years are the people that were always not. You agreed on 3 years.
I have not made any.
You said you agreed on 3 years as a coalition, but then others let us say 5 years, and you said that was what brought this crisis.
Well, I think you decided to draw your own lessons from what I've said. What
I've
I've said is very clear. I'm saying the agenda was 3 years to put an end to incumbency.
Yes.
That was the agenda. But eventually, they moved, cabinet itself moved away from that agenda of 3 years and gave the president 5 years. And that became a campaign of 5 years. Then you have already eradicated the whole concept of eradicating incumbency.
So that was what you talked about as a crisis.
I have not mentioned a crisis. I simply said, I don't know, maybe you can go and listen to the tapes again. I don't think any word like crisis came in my whole presentation. What I have said is very simple, that the architect of the coalition, those who really built this coalition, had one fundamental objective: to free Gambia from the politics of incumbency so that there can be level ground for multi-party contest. And maybe some did not understand it as that way. You ask them, but we are speaking as they. That when we went into this coalition, the whole objective was to put an end to the politics of incumbency so that we can have a level ground for multi-party contest. I said that that has not happened. And now you are still left with the politics of incumbency. you are still left with the politics of incumbency. That is, the might of the executive is still operating in the political architecture of the government.
I am Suleiman, one from the Boys Institute. Always, you have been empowering the youth, and you have been leading, you have been calling the presidential candidate for a while now, and then you have election. Are you willing to contest in the 2020 presidential election?
Well, have I ever contested for in elections?
Are you willing to contest?
Yes, I'm asking you. You start with a statement. You say that I've been contesting for a while. I've never contested for in presidential election. I was selected to contest in 2016, and of course, I invited all the presidential candidates at Kairaba in order for us to build a coalition, because it was very clear that singly we would not have been able to defeat the incumbent. So I've never stood as a presidential election for them. And clearly, if I am selected for 2021, I will contest for them. Is that an answer?
Thank you very much, Honorable Sallah. You argue that your agenda was to have an independent national assembly that will promote the agenda of Tuareg in 2016 by working with the executive to make sure that the agenda of the Tuareg is achieved. But many argue that if we have an independent national assembly, we will be in a scenario where the people that are supporting the president will go link to whatever the president said, they will support the idea. And many have argued that this has never happened anywhere where you have a national assembly that consists of independent national assembly members. It's rather by political parties. What would you say to critics that are saying that agenda has never happened anywhere where you have a national assembly, independent national assembly?
Well, it is now very easy to engage in such debates. But when ex-President Jammeh was there in the State House, and we called the presidential candidates to decide to form a coalition, and we called the parties also to decide to form a coalition, some were saying you've never had a primary or convention of different political parties. That was the thinking, wasn't it? Some felt that this was not even possible. It's not feasible. We are wasting our times. Go back to your Facebooks, etc., and you see what they were saying to Halifa Sallah at that time. They said it was not possible. What they said was impossible became possible. And what became possible is a person resigning from his party and standing as an independent presidential candidate and won. Now, if a person resigns from his party and becomes an independent presidential candidate and won, what prevents another person resigning and become an independent National Assembly member? A good example is even now, after some people have been sent out of their parties, they are now independent National Assembly members in the National Assembly. It's like history is absolving us as we go. As some content, then development takes place that really shows that we are correct. Development takes place that shows that we are correct. So the idea is that we had an intention. And if you had independent National Assembly members who were selected for the sole purpose of serving the coalition agenda, those people will not even be thinking about the president. They'll be thinking about the coalition. The central gravity of power will not be in the executive. It will be in the coalition. And people will know that we have an agenda to implement. And as a result, everybody will have to conform to that agenda. Those who are following National Assembly proceedings, you can see that in many instances, yes, sometimes you have partisan consideration, but in most instances, you can see that we are together on what is right, despite the partisan differences. So I think those are just academic issues that people wish to raise, and it's good that they continue raising them. It makes good academic discussion. But the reality is, we were faced with a life and death situation in 2016. And that life and death situation had to be addressed, and all of us conformed to what was demanded by times and circumstances to address it.
Yeah, my second question is going to be regarding the by-election, as you are the chairman of the Interparty Committee, and I have gone through the memorandum of understanding that the political parties have signed to agree that the message that people will be using when they have campaign should be a decent message. But we have seen audios during the campaign that other political parties there, one can say, using abusive language or castigating people that do their political rallies. You have the chairperson of the Interparty Committee. What will this committee do to remedy those situations in the next 2021 election as it is looming? If the trend continues, it's very, we might be faced with crisis if they continue to use those abusive languages.
Yes, I'm sure the Interparty Committee, when they meet and have their press conference, you'll be able to ask that question. This is the Secretary General of PDOIS speaking, and clearly you, the journalists, should in fact capture all those sayings and put it in the public space, and those are the facts that one could gather to be able to draw lessons. And I'm sure that when the time comes, those issues will become the issues to be addressed by the Interparty Committee.
According to the election observer, led by Wallet, the election, during the election of Myanmar was constituency. So many because of officials who are present, seems some officials that are not present. According to them, that would have reduced the electorate to vote for NDP rather than for the BBC. As a politician, what is your reaction to that? Secondly, 2021 presidential election is happening. And according to political analysis, one political party cannot win election to be done for in the next 10 years. Is going to have that in the political parties?
Well, number one, you talk about what the observations. I think those observations will be observations that the political parties will take into consideration. All of us will need to go to the drawing board to learn the lessons that came out of Nyamina and Kenjarga, based on all the findings made by the different independent political monitors, and through that we should be able to come up with a blueprint as to how to handle those issues. So we'll take what you've said based on what you've said. I've not read the one report yet, but I'm sure we'll get all those reports as part of the political system that we are trying to build up, a political system of consultation among the political parties. You've also drawn a hypothesis that one party cannot actually win. Well, essentially, what you see in politics, sometimes political alliances based on equal parties. Sometimes one party will drag many parties to support it so that they will no longer have any clout. We've seen every form of alliance in this country. So what is important is to prepare the ground for a change that will be a change of a system. That is what is important. Rather than the arithmetic of party A, party B joining together to fight party C, that may not be the equation that would work. So maybe there will be new equations of how unity will be built, but what form of unity? Is it just unity for regime change? You move one president, put another president in office? Is that what really what Gambians should wish for? Or do we want to move now to a change that will address the needs and aspirations of the people? So it's really left to the Gambian people. If there are political forces with the programs that can address their needs and aspirations, and they are convinced that this will address their needs and aspirations, of course they can make the party to win. So it all depends. And it also depends on the political system we're going to have. Are we going to have second round of voting, or will we not move into that direction? Because all those are issues. So what type of political formation, I don't think we can determine now. We can hypothesize now.
There's no question. I just want to ask your opinion in regards to actually what we have been observing right now is voter apathy. You know, if we go to the history since from the mayoral election, we compare the amount of registered voters and the amount of people that normally turns out to vote. If you compare, you find out that those who refuse or sit down at their homes, or they are either not alive or they travel. You know, whether there is a story that has been done to examine actually why people are not voting from the mayoral election to the council election and this recent by-election, both Nyamina West and Kelowna were the people that didn't vote is more than the amount of people that were compared to the voter registration in those 2020. Could our political parties investigate to know what is the reason behind it so that we can address it? Voter apathy might definitely give somebody that is not the wish or the aspiration of the majority of the Gambian people to be to be the president of the country. What steps would PDOIS as a political party take to address this situation?
Well, I think I've mentioned that these are issues that we are interested in. We are on the ground studying and seeing why people vote, how they are voting. And I'm sure you will bear in mind that since the elections of 2016, there has never been registration of voters. So it means that all those people who became 18 since 2016 did not have even opportunity to vote. How many are there? So really, what we are saying is that the current political reality cannot be fully understood by the results of Nyamina and Kirjanga. Gambia is more complex than those results, and the future will be determined not by the nature of those results, but by the nature of who the Gambian becomes in the next 9 months, in the next 1 year of our existence.